Hi, and welcome to another AOGP Outside of the Church podcast. This is season 6, episode 9, episode 9. I'm here with my trusted companion, Quentin Stroud. Quentin, how are you today?
I am very good. I'm ready to dive in deep today.
We're gonna go in a submersible sub and take a look at some things at lower depths here. It's not technical. It is technical, but we're going to make it non-technical, and we're going to start out with
Mhm.
some definitions. This is going to be exteriorization and past lives, an introduction to exteriorization. Now we'll get into why this is important and everything, and we'll unravel this for our listeners. First off, what is exteriorization? What is it defined as by LRH? LRH says exteriorization is the state of the thetan, the individual himself, being outside his body. When this is done, the person achieves a certainty that he is himself and not his body. And I'm adding to this, but a spiritual being. The second definition, the phenomenon of being in a position in space dependent on only one's consideration, able to view from that space bodies and the room as it is. Third, the act of moving out of the body with or without full perception. Now, what does this have to do with everything? Well, we're going to get into exteriorization and interiorization, and we need to do a little explaining about what the E meter, or what we use, a theta meter, which is a digital meter that connects to your computer and is far superior to what the church offers in their Mark 8 with its call home to the mothership and prevent you from using their $5,000 meter that you just purchased 2 of. Sorry, Dave, but yeah. And you can get a theta meter for about $550, either from us or theta-meter.com. And you plug it into your computer, you upload the software or download the software to your computer. And what we're looking at with a meter shows the presence or change or lack thereof in mental mass or resistance. There's a
Yes.
little tiny electrical current that passes through those cans from your left hand to your right hand, or solo. It's just into the body and out of the body through one hand. So you can write down on your iPad, like I do, what's going on in your solo session. And that little tiny electrical current, when it runs into resistance, it can't pass through the body / through the thetan as well, or connected to the thetan. The thetan creates mental mass. And so there's more of a resistance. That means that there are mental pictures, mental masses being created by the thetan that are in restimulation. Is that pretty clear, you think, Quentin?
Well, I'll say it this way, and to make it a little bit even more lay terms, like you might have experienced a time when you are trying to accomplish something, you're trying to learn a skill, or you're trying to do something that you really want to do, and yet there is some resistance. There's some resistance on it. There's, for some reason, I'm not getting this. For some reason, it's not getting through. What the meter measures is this mental mass, or this resistance that you're running into as a being, right? And you of course, we know as a thetan you have the ability to considerations, postulates, and thought considerations and postulates, and opinions, and you have the ability to kind of move those thoughts, those considerations, those opinions. You have the ability to move those through
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether it be like actually literally postulating something and seeing it come to pass, or whatever you're trying to accomplish in your life. Well, if there's mental mass, if there's this resistance that you're running into, it slows down your postulates. It slows down your thinkingness. It lowers your IQ. It does all this terrible stuff to us, and the whole purpose of auditing really is to relieve ourselves of this mental mass, of this resistance to our postulates, so that we as spiritual beings can have the experiences that we deserve and desire.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really, like, I think everybody can really resonate with that, and knowing, like, Yeah, that's exactly what I've experienced. Like I knew I wanted to do it, but for some reason I couldn't push through my resistance, you know?
Mm-hmm. And as an extension to that, what I do with a lot with our pre-clears and stuff, when I go over the basic concepts with them, like in a life repair, or I want to make sure if they've come from the church, for example, what they know, how they know it, and everything. So we go over all these basic concepts, the axioms, the Dianetic axioms, the Scientology axioms, and I do a drill with them, and I say, okay, so we're going to do the opposite of what the reactive mind does. The reactive mind, things pop up into view. You don't have any control of them because it's reactive. That's why it's called the reactive mind. You don't have any control over it, but you do have control over this. And to our listeners, go ahead and do this. If you're not driving, maybe not. If you're handling a power tool, maybe not. But if you're just sitting having some coffee or some nice hot tea with lemon in it, I want you to get a picture in your mind, create a stage with a black background and a light hang over it, nice, comfortable light. And on that wood stage, just like in a movie theater or something like that, a classic movie theater, on that stage, I want you to put a footstool, a nice wooden footstool. Okay, you got that? You got the black, you got the light above it, a wood floor, a footstool. Okay, good. Now, I want you to imagine a cat of any color with beautiful green eyes. Okay, you see that cat? Now make that cat alive. It's looking at you. Its tail is moving slowly back and forth, meows at you, stays on there. It's just giving you its attention. You're giving it your attention. Okay, good. Now, you got that cat, you got that room, you got those points. All right. So the cat jumps down and walks closer to you to the edge of the stage, and you pet it. And scritchies on the back, scritchies on the head, purrs. Now the cat goes back over. It's a nice long haired cat, maybe. Maybe it's a short haired cat, but it's got beautiful green eyes. Okay, good. So the cat walks back up and sits on the footstool. Okay, good. So you got that. Now I want you to unmock or take away the cat. Good. Take away the footstool. Good. All right. Now all that's left is the light, the stage, and the black background. Okay. Remove the black background, remove the stage. Good. All right. So it's gone. So that is an example of creative processing. You made it and you unmade it. You unmocked it. So all of that had a tiny amount of mass. That is you in control of a mental image picture and a mental image creation. You do this every day. Every day. Like we've talked about in the podcast. Okay, I think I'm going to go brush my teeth. You get a picture of yourself brushing your teeth in some way, if not in a lot of ways. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Same deal. Okay, now here's the deal with the reactive mind. The reactive mind pops things into view based off of restimulation. Something in your environment is restimulating you and causing you to have these things pop into view that you're not in control of per se. More on that later. So that's why it's called reactive. So what happens is when you go exterior, this reactivity occurs. Quentin, you want to take it away from here? You want me to?
Yeah, so absolutely. So when this is interesting because even as you were doing the process, like I could see myself exterior to all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exterior to all of that creation. It's interesting that you said that this happens from a reactive level, and the reactive mind actually throws these things at you, right? It throws these resistances at you. We have an acronym that we use for fear, not in Scientology, in my own practice, for fear. It stands for false evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
FEAR,
Mm-hmm.
false evidence appearing real. And so when you want to do something, or you want to accomplish something, or you want to go and talk to that guy or go and talk to that girl or whatever the case may be, and you have this fear that comes up in you. It's false evidence appearing real. We've mocked up something that says, oh, this is going to be a problem, or they're not going to like me, or this going to, I'm too
Mm-hmm.
fat, or I'm too ugly, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, right? And it's all just false evidence appearing real. It's stuff that we've created. It's the stage, it's the background, it's the light, it's the cat, it's
Yep.
the footstool. It's stuff that we've created in our own awareness and our own universe, and it keeps us from being able to move forward. Well, when you go exterior, so let's say we're in auditing, we're in session, and so when you reach out to LGP and you're like, I want to get some auditing, you get the theta meter, you're going in, and boom, you go exterior. Like you feel this visceral
It's like going,
experience of going exterior.
yeah, it's a lot of times it's like going down that first hill on a roller coaster where you feel that sort of
Yes.
lightness. It's very similar to that, but more pronounced. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Right. And it's like oh wow, that's an interesting experience. It's like you're going, you're here in your chair, and yet you're not. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, so when you go exterior in Scientology, what ends up happening is there's a little bit of key in, as LRH says it in HCOB for January 1971. There's a little bit of key in that kind of comes up
Triggers.
because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, right. There's a little bit of like, wait, whoa, this is weird. This don't feel right. This is whatever. There's some people who resist it. Like some people actually resist going exterior. But when you go exterior, there's a little bit of like triggering because it's like, whoa, because what we don't realize is that when we go exterior, we're just at the end of the incident,
Mm-hmm.
which is why usually if you ever had some auditing and you go exterior, the auditor will like start to just like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and end here, right? But there's a there you're at the end of the incident because I'm free of it now. Whew, I'm out of it. Whew, thank you. Right? I feel so much better. But what we don't realize, and this is what LRH found out in 1971, is that you had to get in there first.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that kind of makes sense, right? I'm out of something, but I had to get in it first.
Mm-hmm.
And so what LRH came up with was this interior exterior rundown, NX rundown, that gets a person to really get through this, get to this place where when I go exterior, I'm able to continue auditing. I'm able to continue moving forward in my life. I'm able to continue feeling free, being free, because I not only ran out my exterior moment, but I also dealt with getting into the mess in the first place.
Right.
I love it.
How can you get out of the house without having gone in the house in the first place? How can you get out of the car
Yeah.
without having gone in the car? How can you get out of the body when there was an earlier interiorization into the body? And LRH says in this reference on the interiorization exteriorization rundown that what happens is when you go exterior, well, you're triggering, keying in, same thing, restimulating an earlier exteriorization, but as Quentin is describing, the earlier interiorization is now triggered and keyed in. So this causes a much higher resistance on the meter and
Yeah.
makes it much more difficult. And in fact, it is, and I can attest to this, it is in fact uncomfortable, both as a thetan and in the body. And you're going to be charged up and you're not going to know why. Well,
Mhm.
that's because a series of engrams, which is a painful incident, loss, all this emotion and everything, birth, death, they're both engrams going into the body, coming out of the body, both engrams dianetically. So, an earlier beginning in Dianetics, New Era Dianetics, or Book One, the original Dianetics, 1950, an earlier beginning causes the tone arm to go up because it hasn't been viewed, it hasn't been touched on, and you have to get that information to get an as isness. If you remember from the States of Being podcast, the axioms, Scientology axioms, and Dianetic axioms. So you have to find that earlier beginning. And then, guess what, Quentin? You want to give them the
Well, I was going to say before I go into that, I was going to
Okay.
say when we go in, when we're in this body, when we're in this experience, and this is, think about anything that you're uncomfortable. You could be at a party, right? You could be anywhere that you are, and if it's uncomfortable being in there, there's going to be a little bit of resistance, right? There's going to be a little bit of pushback, because I don't feel comfortable here, right?
Mhm.
Well, imagine now a baby who is this amazing, beautiful being, this big, beautiful being, and is crammed in, or chooses to be crammed in, chooses to be forced in to this meat body that has, soft bones, and can't fully communicate what it wants to communicate, really.
Mhm.
And it's like you're now in this thing. It, like, you can see how birth would be on some level aberrative. You can see how birth would be like, God, what is this experience, right?
Mhm.
If you ever saw that movie back in the day with Kirstie Alley, Look Who's Talking. Remember
Mhm.
Look Who's Talking?
Mhm.
And remember when the baby was first born, the baby had all these considerations, like, who are you? And what is this? Oh my God, the light.
Yeah.
If you go, it's such a good movie. But that's kind of what happens when you go in. Now let's think about death. Obviously, death, which is a way of going exterior, getting out of the body, getting out of this whole experience. Death is an aberrative, right? Because
Mhm.
something happened to you that you are no longer functioning in this body or with this body.
Mhm.
So, these two things are very important. So now, when we talk about this interior exterior rundown, we talk about, like, when a person goes exterior, that something has been touched on from way back when I first came into this, when I first got into this. Now, if you know anything about um, triggers and trauma and engrams and stuff like that, if you know anything about this stuff, you know that something had to happen earlier,
To remind
right,
you of it. Mhm.
in order to make you feel some kind of way about it now,
Right.
right?
Earlier similar.
So, right, exactly. So something had to happen earlier to get me to a place where I'm now feeling this way. And what's cool about it is this: what LRH discovered is that when a person goes exterior, if we go back and we deal with when that person was put into this, it actually helps them to be exterior with more clarity, with more certainty, with more uh, um, stability, right?
Mhm.
Because that mental mass is released. You're no longer dealing with the resistance, and you're really ready to continue auditing well beyond it.
Mhm.
I think that's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Who
So
would think?
this is the interesting crux of the matter. And you're probably saying, okay, so what is this? What does all this have to do with past lives? And wait a minute, where's the meat in the meat and potatoes? Well, here it is. Okay. This is very interesting, and I want to make sure that I describe it very well, because um, what's happening here is you've had hundreds of thousands of bodies, maybe not even this kind of body that we have here on Earth now. Hundreds of thousands, millions, maybe even billions. This universe, the physical universe, and its time track is pretty darn old, and it's a lot longer than the scientists here on Earth want to admit or even know. So what's happening here is you are triggering, re-stimulating, keying in all of these earlier going outs and coming in to these bodies. So this is a lot of re-stimulation for a person. And all of this has been brought upon. And it's important, it's very important to note that it isn't just something that gets re-stimulated or keyed in session with going exterior, which is not something we go for in an auditing session. If it happens, hey, great, then and this proves you are not a meat puppet. You are not a body. You are a spiritual being that is outside of it, which we covered in our new ways to present Scientology to others podcast in last season 5. The point is that if you're forced into a situation or you're forced out of someplace, you get kicked out of someplace, you lose your job or something like that. That's just as restimulative on these
Mm-hmm.
past goings ins and coming outs. So it can happen in a lot of different situations, not just birth and dying or going exterior in session. It can be a lot of different things. We have different buttons on this. And
Right.
to tell our listeners what happened when we were going over this reference earlier before the
Yeah,
podcast.
it's. I was actually just going to say that. Even as I was reading this bulletin by LRH about this whole phenomena and what happens to a being in this, I literally felt keyed out. Like I felt keyed out because this is my first time actually seeing this reference, and I felt keyed out a little bit, like because I'm like, yeah, I had to be forced into this, and I had to kind of get into the space and be in this. I think LRH says, like, you're it's in a situation where you're about to get hit by a truck. Well, why, like, what has you there in the road, in a body, about to get, confronted with a truck? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, why am I here? What is this whole thing about?
Mm-hmm.
And you start to realize, like, I guess on some level, for me at least, I felt like I became more at cause over my being here. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like I became more at cause just in reading this reference, and I haven't even done the process yet, but just in reading the reference, I became more at cause of I'm here with some kind of intention, some kind of purpose, some kind of agreement, whatever it is. And now that is, as I get auditing, as I continue going up the bridge, as I continue going free, like I can see myself when I go exterior. Yeah, now I know why I'm exterior to this. Now I know why this is a good place to be. Now I know why it's preferable to be exterior my meat body than to be trapped in it, like a lot of people may feel.
Right. So you're being put more at cause. That which,
Yes.
like LRH says, that which a person understands, they can't be the adverse effect of. I mean, that only goes so far. That's why auditing needs to be done. But it really makes you understand. Okay, I am not a body. I am a being in a body. So
Yes.
what this has to do with and how it proves past lives. I'm just going to be blunt, and I'm just going to just say that it proves past lives because when you do an exteriorization rundown, either that or there's another one called the end of endless interiorization rundown. One is a Dianetic version and one is a Scientology version. You start to realize that this has been going on for a really long time, and you see what is in restimulation for you, and you get past these by looking at them as ising them, seeing them for what they are, and or an isness, and then as an as isness, and then all of that stuff keys out. So it's released to a point that you've gotten all of the earlier exteriorizations going out and all of the earlier interiorizations going in, and you realize you've been around a mighty long time. And the physical
Yeah.
universe pales in comparison to the theta universe, that which you really reside in. And when you get sucked into the body and it's hot and it's sweaty and you're miserable and you just want to take a shower and or you're cold, or the body has aches and pains or whatever, you tend to lose sight of that whole thing. But the point is that we're all in agreement to be in this body to play a game and play the game of survive. So this is
Yeah.
what you've been
And
doing. Go ahead.
yeah. No, and I was just gonna say, and missed the physical universe, this meat, this body, our bones, our blood, our having to eat, our desire to have sex, and the whole thing. All of this can be a little tricky. It can be a trap, right? It could be
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing. It's like it it makes one believe that I am my body.
Mm-hmm.
And even though innately we might say, I have an arm or I have a leg or my heart or my brain or whatever, you know that I am not my brain. I have a brain. Naturally, you would say that. But for real, one might identify as, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is, why it's like, this just came up, but like why phantom pain might happen if a person loses a limb or something like that, they still, because they're so aware of that limb, they're so aware of that thing that they might still have phantom pains, or they might still feel tingling sensation in their
Right.
fingers or whatever. They're still aware of it, right? So, I'm just saying all this to say that when we become so aware of who we really are, which is the goal of auditing, which is the goal of Scientology as a practice, when you become so aware of who you really are, the things that you no longer are don't have so much power over you as a being.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be anything in your reality. That could be, any person that you might be around that might be, a little bit covertly hostile, or a little bit, lower on the tone scale, like they coming at you. But you know what? I'm good. I'm free. Like I don't have to deal with this anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes this whole thing of, I now can get free of anything
Mm-hmm. Nothing can
because
hold
I
you.
know who I really am.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly. This is such a beautiful religious philosophy, because it really gives you the power back of you. It
Yeah.
gives you power of you.
Right. It gives you a
And
huge, long history of playing the video game in the physical universe, so to speak, and your character gets killed, and you respawn, and you're like, okay, now I'm back in the game.
I can't beat it this time. I
I
know
can
I
beat
know
this
what to
time.
look for.
Right, right. I mean, that's quite literally, that's a great metaphor for it, because as a Thetan, oh, I died. Okay, respawn. Boom, back in the video game. The video game is the physical
Dude,
universe. It is literally just like that.
now you're speaking to me on that, because I am a gamer. I'm gonna be honest with you. I
Yeah,
got my PS5 in there. It's on right now, waiting for
right.
me. But I'll tell you this: when you're really into the game, hear me and understand the metaphor. When you're really into the game and you're getting far, you're making progress in your this level or whatever you're on, and then you die. I have literally cursed at the TV. I've thrown the remote across the
I've
room
seen
or
those.
something
I've
like that.
seen those videos too. Yeah, yeah.
You
How
get
mad people
so
get.
bad
Yeah.
that you slipped up and you fucked up and died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's how it is in this life, in this whole existence as a spiritual being. You get so good into the game, and you're living this game, and you're playing it out, and you think you're doing so well. Boom, and car accident, or truck, or whatever
Right. And
happens.
you're like, God damn it.
Illness. Damn it!
Now I gotta start all over again and go through that that
Oh
that,
my
that
gosh!
warm, tight tube, and the bright light, and get spanked on the ass. God damn
Right? What is all
it.
this?
And you've done that
And
billions of times.
oh my gosh. But what's so cool about it, especially having this awareness of it, and like you said, this long history of knowing who you are and what you've been through,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you back your certainty. It gives you back the certainty of, I can do this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, there's a
It gives
certainty.
you back
Yeah.
that. Mhm. It gives you back that certainty of, I can do this. I can win at this, even if it's to the degree where I feel like I'm getting along quite nicely. And I think that's just kind of where most people are. Even listening to this podcast, you're like, I just want to get along quite nicely with this. I just want to do my best. I want to feel good in my everyday goings and comings and goings. And that's what I believe that you regain with auditing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this: ever since I've been auditing with ALGP, like, I really feel like so many things that I've been wanting to accomplish, and I'll say over the last number of years, maybe even before the shutdown and all that stuff, like, so many things that I've wanted to accomplish, I now feel and know that these things are being given back to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm getting back a mastery.
Perspectives.
Um, yeah, I'm getting back this perspective of, I can now have that. I can now do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I've literally started to feel freer from my own mental mass, my own
Mm-hmm.
resistance.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Now,
so good.
now, this is a bit of a side rail. on this. In L11, for example, you're dealing with valences and things like that. What how would you correlate that in your experiences on valences in doing L11 with this particular perspective based off of the last few days?
Well, it's so crazy because, okay, this is so good because valences, of course, is identities that one might assume or one might put on, right? Like think about like a veil that you kind of put over yourself, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you are who you truly are, and yet sometimes we might have this valence or this identity or this veil that we've put on to kind of for many different reasons. Anyway, when you're auditing, especially at some of the levels that we're doing now, when you're auditing, you can literally peel back the layer. And if you think about a bride, this is just how it shows in my head, walking down the aisle and the veil is over her face or whatever, she can see, like I know I can see through this, but it's still a little cloudy, it's still a little obfuscated, it's still a
Mm-hmm.
little
It's
covered.
opaque.
Yeah, and so there's times that like this ain't me. Like how I'm feeling right now is not me. I don't feel like myself right now. I don't feel like I normally feel or I want to feel. And so when it's not you, unless you don't, because sometimes you don't. But the truth of the matter is, when you start doing this level of auditing, you're peeling back those layers. You're peeling back that veil, and you become more and more clear in your knowing this and what you can see, what you can experience, what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And the valence is literally like, I get it. I get why I feel this way. I get why I'm in this situation. I get why I had to go through this
Mm-hmm.
because I was putting myself in this identity that is not me. And therein lies the rub, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So would you say that past lives have been a part of L11 for you?
Past life was a part of Dianetics for me. When after doing over 400 hours of Dianetics, like literally, when you really get into this, after you run out prenatal, after you run out your birth, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean. After you run out, like, okay, what else we got? What else is on the chain? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so then you keep going, and I believe even in LRH's, I think evolution of a science, um LRH talked about like once you start to kind of get that person back to in good shape, you get to a place where like, oh wait, there's something back of this.
Mm-hmm.
There's something beyond even
Right.
that. And so past lives for me started first hitting, I think we talked about it in some other podcasts, when I was in Dianetics, and continuing to go up the bridge even more, it becomes more and more clear how these things actually do impact a person. Um, and for me, L11 has really, I think, knocked out swaths. That's one of my favorite words, by the way. Swaths of stuff, swaths of mental mass, swaths of resistance. So much resistance on my own postulates,
Mm-hmm.
so much resistance on my own intentions. That was a big one recently when we were in session. So much resistance on my own intention. Like, what is my intention as I am here doing this thing called life? What am I
Mm-hmm.
intending to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What's my purpose? So this is really, really good stuff. And I really recommend anybody who is really serious about regaining their own stability, regaining their own certainty, like not being the adverse effect of your own junk, as it were. Get in some auditing.
On a
Definitely
whole
get
track
in
level. On a whole
on a
track level.
whole track level.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, that time you fell off your bike, that didn't feel good. But boy, oh boy, is there more.
Right. So would you say that in the context of interiorization and exteriorization, you is it manifest to you on L11 how this interiorization and exteriorization thing is a reality?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, just reading the reference that LRH wrote, like it made so much sense that okay, I'm exterior, and then something happens in your regular life, your real life, and you're like, damn, you feel like you got knocked back down a peg or two, right? But when you're able to run the int-x rundown, when you're able to deal with your whole track and past lives and past deaths and past births and da da da, all this other stuff, where you're kind of put in a situation where you're in it now,
Mm-hmm.
boy oh boy, does it make you feel more able as a being to be like, I got it now. I got how I got in it. I got how I'm getting out of it. And let's run it. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go.
Right. So since this is both interiorization and exteriorization and past lives, uh you and I didn't get to ask you this before we started the podcast. Do you have any good past life stories you might want to
So
share with our listeners, since the last past life one was such a big hit with our listeners? And you didn't do it with me. I did that one with Jason.
okay.
You got any good yarns?
So let me tell you, okay, I've had some very interesting past lives. And what I'll say to that more so than anything is I'm going to connect it to how it's been affecting me in this present experience.
Mm-hmm.
So just so you know, growing up as a kid, I was like literally 98-pound weakling. I think I talked about this in another podcast. I didn't hit 100 pounds till I was in 10th grade, but I also was the nerdy kid that had like all the allergies, and I had to carry around like tissues in my pocket, like the little packets of tissue
Mm-hmm.
thing in my pocket, and because I would have and anything could kind of keep me in with allergies. So hear me, allergies. So my brother used to always get mad at me. This is my current lifetime. My brother used to always get mad at me because he would have to always cut the grass, because when I would go outside to cut the grass, my allergies would kick
Oh
in,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it was
Me too. Yeah.
boy oh boy, grass allergies. If anybody has hay
Oh
fever,
my
grass
God.
allergies, that kind of crap,
Yeah.
I could be driving down the street, and if a neighbor was cutting grass, I would
Yeah.
have to lift my windows up, turn on the air conditioner on
Right.
full blast.
Battle
I could not.
stations.
Right, exactly. I would have to protect myself. I would have a car condom for grass. It was
Right.
crazy. So, anyway, doing auditing, getting my auditing in, and this past life experience pops up. So my auditor says, "Is there an earlier incident similar to this one or whatever?" And I get taken back. I'm a gentleman on stage, and I'm speaking in front of this whole group of people, and I'm very animated about it. I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. And as I'm kind of going through the incident, the next thing I see is blackness. I'm like, dude, I'm unconscious. And as we continue to run this thing over and over and over again in auditing,
In Dianetics.
it this is Dianetics auditing, correct,
Mm-hmm.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
This is Dianetics auditing. Turns out I was a Jewish rabbi
Mm-hmm.
during the war,
Mm-hmm.
speaking against the regime that was in power at the time, whatever, speaking against the regime that was in power, and someone runs up on stage and knocks me in the back of the head with this piece of wood,
Mm-hmm.
knocks me unconscious. A group of people come and grab me, take me off the stage, throw me in the back of a trunk, like a car, throw me in the back of a trunk or whatever, this thing. I go to this location, they interrogate me, they pummel me, they drug me, they do all this crazy stuff, and then they threw me out in this field, left for dead. And I tell you how clear this reality was. I was able to see the images of the people. I was able to recall certain words and phrases that they were using in a different language than what I natively speak in this lifetime. I was able to recall the things that they were saying to me. I was able to when I was laying in the grass, like I was able to feel the grass on my face. I was able to feel the sun down on my neck. I could hear the buzzers or birds or whatever they were circling, ready to eat, because there was a whole bunch of people in this field. And I expire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, boom, I come out of like I'm in reverie or whatever. I'm in session, and I wake up and I'm like, this is where my fucking grass allergy comes from. Like I'm face down,
With the
drugged
grass over
in
your
grass
face.
allergy,
Mm-hmm.
breathing in the grass, snot coming out my nose, And you should have saw me in session. I was drooling and so everything was just re-stimulated,
Turned
right?
on, yeah.
I was, yeah, I was dramatizing all this stuff. And I literally have never had a grass allergy attack since that day.
Mhm.
No, not I can run in the field with the kids, play softball or whatever. No problem. No problem.
It
And,
just
and that
blew.
to me, yeah, exactly. The allergy of grass. I'm not saying that this is not diagnosing or whatever any other people's medical conditions or whatever. Do what you got to do for you. I'm saying from my experience, my grass allergy was linked to me being a Jewish rabbi and getting attacked.
Mm. Mm. It's really cool how that sort of thing happens. It's, it's almost inexplicable that it could be something so simple yet
I don't know how simple it was because that was a
well.
mess.
Well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
from a technical standpoint,
right.
the being in the grass and everything like that,
A
and
2 hour session cleared it.
yeah, a 2 hour session cleared it, and clearly it was an extremely unfortunate incident and experience and everything. With all due respect, but that's miraculous. It's just miraculous how Dianetics works like that.
Yeah. It's so funny because obviously when people talk about, dying and death and stuff like that, there's this idea that we have to mourn it or we have to whatever. And my father, I think I talked about it in his past podcast as well, that my father was murdered.
Hmm.
I was 13 years old. And when I tell people this, the first response is, "Oh, I'm so sorry," which I
Right.
love that. And thank you for that, vote of empathy or whatever it is. And I always say, "Oh, he's better now. That's fine. He got better." I say, "Oh, he got better. He's better now."
Right. That's the reality of it.
Right.
It's that video game. Yeah, I got killed. Okay,
Yeah.
now what
Okay.
game? Okay, respawn.
Right. He's respawned.
Do you want to play Stray, or do what do you want to do? You want to play some other game? Okay, you can
Right.
go play that other game,
Right.
or you can stay out
It's
of the physical universe altogether and watch the grass grow if you want.
yeah. It's such an interesting thing, being a Scientologist and having this level of awareness about it. I think obviously, in other modalities and spiritualities, there is some um touching on it and you get some awareness of it on some other levels too. But I know for me, this has been the most clear that I've been able to know myself, know my history as a being, my whole track experiences, and it's been revolutionary for my life. Like
Hmm.
the way I live it, the way I go about it. When things do come up, and they do, like shit happens in life. You're dealing with a physical body and physical universe. But when it comes up, I don't feel the same level of key in um, that I think many other people who I talk to and experience sessions and stuff with feel, because I just don't have that same charge there anymore.
Yeah, you've cleaned out the garage and the storage facility of all of that mental mass, and you just look at it as, yeah, that happened. There's lots of
Right.
things that have happened, and I am, I'm unbiased on it. It's something that happened, and it's either good or it's bad at the time. But in the big picture, this is part of the game that we play as a being in imbuing ourselves into the physical universe through a meat puppet, a body.
Yeah. When LRH talks about the missed beginning in that reference that we're talking about in this conversation, he says that what has happened here as regards to exteriorization is that we have concentrated on exteriorization. If one is in something, he must have gotten into it. Therefore, the beginning of an exteriorization is the interiorization.
Mm-hmm.
The being went into something before he went out of it, right? And that right there, that just that whole section really, really opened me up. It says exteriorization occurs at death. That's an engram. Interiorization occurs at birth. That's an engram. So when somebody goes exterior, he is actually liable to key in having gone interior in the first place. Get it? So that whole thing just freed me up a lot, just knowing this. past lives, past births, past deaths, past incidents on those lines, being alive in those experiences. It's
Hmm.
just good stuff.
Yeah. In and out, in and out, in and out, into the physical universe, out of the physical universe,
And everything in between.
and everything in between that ultimately we cause because we're moving things around in the physical universe, and we're little land movers and modifiers and creators of both mental mass and physical universe mass. And well, on the positive side, affinity, love, um, granting of beingness and all that stuff, and that's all part of the game of life, is the emotional tone scale, and using it to get desired results in the physical universe, either with the universe itself and or other beings in it with you. So
Yeah.
where are we at on time, roughly? Any idea?
Technically we have about 5 minutes,
Okay, so
but
go ahead.
but no, I was just gonna say, I want to encourage for those of you who listen to these podcasts, definitely go back and listen to some of the earlier ones. Go back and listen to some of the previous seasons. Kind of um build up your arsenal, as it were, as somebody looking into independent Scientology, somebody who is looking into Scientology as a practice, somebody who wants to kind of get the firsthand conversation with people who know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? If
Mm-hmm.
you're researching this, or if this is something that, like, as independent Scientology, like, what do I do with this? How does this even work? Right?
Right.
It works when you work it. Trust
Mm-hmm.
me. And so, listen to some of the previous podcasts. I definitely recommend the ones about the axioms. And if you really go into that, those are really, really good. With when you guys did those earlier that I went and listened to, I really enjoyed those. It
Mm-hmm.
gives you a basis for why Scientology, the practice, works. And it gives you a basis for how you can start to free yourself on these tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Once you, if you're getting to the end of this podcast, and share this out. Share this with people who might have a similar interest. Share this with people who might have a similar curiosity,
Yeah.
even, right?
Yep.
About what do they believe? What is that for real? Like, if this is something that you're into, and you don't know if they're really into it, I can promise you, after really hearing these kinds of conversations, I can promise you that people can be like, "Oh, I've been through that. Oh, I get that. Oh, that resonates," whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
if they don't, that's fine too. What's true for you is true for you. But this is a really, really good start, I think. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, it's you need to understand the basics and the axioms. The two podcasts are the basis of independent Scientology season 5. We didn't finish going through all of those, but at some point, Quentin and I will finish the Dianetic axioms, and I'm sure we'll have a hoot talking about it. But it was one of those things that we did 2 of them, and we'll do some more later on down the road, type of thing.
Mhm.
Um, interesting to point these things out to people, because it's not so common sense on this sort of a thing, that you are a spiritual being that's been around for a really long time, and you played a lot of games in a lot of places with a lot of people, and you went into a body, you left a body, you went into a situation, you left a situation, you were forced into a situation, you were forced out. And this can really hang fire with people, and they don't understand why. And I can say from personal experience, there's two types of pain. There's physical pain, where you stub your toe or something on the edge of the couch or something, and that really hurts. And there are lots of different levels of pain in a body. But to me, and you could probably confirm this yourself, Quentin, to me, there's a satanic pain. And boy, that's
Mm,
worse. Boy, is
mhm,
that worse. And the type of pain, if you will, and I put quotes around it, because it's not pain physically, it's pain as a being, it's discomfort. It's
mhm,
sort of like putting your size 10 and a half foot in an 8 size shoe, and it's
you-
really, really uncomfortable when
mhm,
interiorization and exteriorization are keyed in, or there's a lot of mental mass. That's ultimately that's the bigger picture, is when you got a lot of mental mass going on here. It's really uncomfortable for a being. It'll make you cry. You'll be miserable. You won't want to go into places, go out of places. And yes, this is
Mm,
restimulative. Okay. I don't have any other way that I can describe this except this is how this thing feels. And until this gets remedied, I was crying my eyes out when I had out interiorization back in 1996, 97, 97, I think. And I was just miserable. And a benevolent auditor took me in session and saved my life. Saved
mhm.
my life. It was only a matter of time. This thing was so keyed in. And if you're one of the people listening to this podcast and you have that kind of a feeling and you just feel like a size 10 and a half and a size 8 shoe, get in touch with us. We'll help you out. We'll get you in session. We'll get you a theta meter. We'll do remote auditing over Zoom. That's what we do 99% of the time these days. All auditing is done. And I haven't mentioned this in any podcast. I want to take a second to talk about this. Is we audit
Yeah.
you over Zoom. This is
Yep.
how this goes. Is we send you a theta meter. We loan them out, or you can buy your own. Takes longer to buy one, but we send you a theta meter. We get you on the computer. We get Zoom installed. We get the theta meter app up and running, and then we do a DFP interview, a director of processing interview. We do a white form to get all the data about your case. And then we can program your folder and take you in session from the comfort of your own home on your computer
Yes.
at a time that is workable for you. Is so much easier. And the efficacy of it is as good or better than what you could get from an auditor in the same room with you. Wouldn't you agree?
I can 100% agree with that. It's interesting because LRH says, and this is true. LRH says that change of environment can be therapeutic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being in my home around my stuff, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
with my own comfortable chair that I have molded to my butt, and being in my own space, it feels so much more therapeutic to me to be able to receive auditing um from my own home, and having a really skilled auditor who can catch those things that show up on the meter, or being able to see me via Zoom and can catch those things via Zoom, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what's going on, what is that, whatever. And Jonathan has done an amazing
Well,
job
thank you.
at, yeah, at auditing me in two different countries, in two
Yeah, you're in the
different
Philippines and I'm
parts.
in South Africa.
Yeah, two different parts of the world, and yet I'm getting the amazing wins. And you go back and read, go on to college, go on the website and read some of my success stories. Um, I'm getting amazing wins because this is the truth. You're you're the Thetan,
Mm-hmm.
you're the PC, right? The auditor is a facilitator. The auditor is a listener. That's
Mm-hmm.
what it is. The auditor is
Mm-hmm.
listening
One who listens.
and computing. Oh, what's going on there? What's that about? What's this about? Da, 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 whatever the case may be. So I'm the PC. I can be wherever I need to be, you know what I mean? And do what I need to do for me and get what I need to do for me. And if I have a really good auditor who has his TAs, his TRs in, who is really, really on point with what he's doing or she is doing, that's what you need,
Mm-hmm.
because you're the PC. You're the one that is going free. You're the one that's dealing with you. The auditor is just a component of that, a twin with that.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate this type of auditing. It really has worked for me, and I recommend that other people give it a try.
Mm-hmm. And this is something that the corporate church does not do at all. We
Mhm.
are the only ones that do this. So
Yeah.
you can get auditing at home on your schedule. You can book your sessions on our website, and we'll show up on Zoom. You'll have the link ahead of time. Your meter will be set up. We take control of your meter from the end on your end of your computer, and control the meter from there. And we take you in session, and we get you case gain, and ultimately towards and making you clear and OT from the comfort of your own home. Now, interestingly enough, we also have online courses that you can take on the College of Independent Scientology, all one word, College of Independent Scientology.com. That's our social media page, where you can join individuals such as us as like-minded individuals in a theta environment, not like Facebook, no one theta, with talking about independent Scientology and, you know, being on a third dynamic. So it's not virtual. You can have a third dynamic and share wins, talk about stuff, have conversations, listen to LRH lectures, you name it. So
Amazing.
get in touch with us, contact us. We'll get you in session, we'll get you on course, find some new friends, common interests, common reality, ARC, KRC. So let's wrap this up for today, Quentin. Thanks for
Yeah.
being here. I really enjoyed this. This is a really, really fun one, and I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy the experience. So for Quentin and I, we'll see you in the next podcast on Friday. Namaste, and we love you.
Peace.